पार्टी फोन कर रहा है। आ रहा है, गाड़ी आ जाएगा 5 मिनट में। गाड़ी उधर ही है, गाड़ी उधर ही है, ड्राइवर है उधर। नहीं, गाड़ी आपको वहीं मेरे दुकान पास आएगा देने के लिए। गाड़ी
जितेंद्र कुमार जी, so now I request to Sudhanshu ji to come forward to welcome our madam. So, and Krishna sir to come on the desk, please. Dr. Charji sir and Krishna sir, Govind Party sir, please. Krishna, go.
It is beneficial and how much it is toxic. So let us start. Next. Current of the gas is used in burning the candle. Priestley discovered the gas and termed it the depolysticated air. In 1772, Lavoisier and Laplace coined the term oxygen. 1974, the use of oxygen in the medical treatment. In 1868, Burke compressed the gas in cylinder, and modern use of oxygen is started in First World War by the J.S. Haldane. This is the history of the oxygen. Next. This is a simple physiology. Composition of the gas and the partial pressure of the gas is like this. You know, in our gas, air, maximum is of nitrogen, then oxygen, then CO2, and the others. Respectively, the partial pressure is accordingly nitrogen 600 millimeter of Hg, oxygen 160, CO2 0.3, and others. Next, these are the simple physiology. Alveolar composition is like this: oxygen 100, CO2 40, SO 47, nitrogen 573. Next, we are not going to give in detail. And here there is an exchange between the oxygen from the alveoli to the pulmonary capillaries. Next. Now, we will start from here. Oxygen is carried in the two forms. From here, we start. First, in combination with the Hb, hemoglobin, that you know. And second one is in the dissolved state. According to Henry's law, amount of oxygen dissolved in the plasma depends upon the partial pressure of the gas. In normal condition, PO2 of 100 milliliter of Hg, only the 0.3 ml of the oxygen is carried in the dissolved state. When the PO2 will rise, the amount of oxygen dissolved in the blood is raised. This one is very important. Capacity of the hemoglobin to carry the oxygen is limited. It carries the fixed amount of the oxygen from the lungs to the tissue. But the amount of the dissolved amount of the oxygen may vary. Now, this oxygen is utilized by the tissue for the metabolic and enzymatic process, you know. When the amount of the dissolved oxygen is more, tissue utilizes dissolved oxygen first. This one is very important. If the demand of the tissue is fulfilled by the dissolved oxygen, then no O2 is extracted from the Hb. In this condition, no free hemoglobin remains available to carry the carbon dioxide from the tissue. And this leads to the accumulation of the carbon dioxide at the tissue level, and this causes the hypercapnia at the tissue. Next. Conditions of the increased PO2. When we reach the hyperbaric oxygen, when the concentration of the oxygen is increased in inspired air, delivery of 100% of oxygen may increase the PO2 more than 700 millimeter of the Hg. Amount of the dissolved oxygen in this case may go more than the 2 ml per 100 ml of the plasma. Just we can see, if we increase the concentration or the pressure of the oxygen, amount of the dissolved oxygen in the blood will be more, and the tissue will utilize this dissolved oxygen first and will left the oxygen carried by the hemoglobin, and naturally the carbon dioxide will not be extracted from the tissue. Next, effect of the increased O2. When the utilization of the O2 is less than the supply, a series of the toxic effect of the oxygen ensues, and there is a formation of the free radical. Next, in clinical settings, oxygen is mainly delivered into the two forms. First, very high concentration for the short term and longer concentration for the prolonged period. On above basis, the delivery of the two types of the toxicity may develop. First is the acute toxicity, second one is the chronic toxicity. Next, early manifestations are variable. Twitching of the perioral and small muscle of the hand, peripheral vasoconstriction due to the hyperoxia, facial pallor, twitching of the diaphragm, with breathing. Next, delayed toxicity may be the nausea, vertigo, altered behavior, clumsiness, convulsion. Peculiarity is that the patient has no memory of the crisis. Neurogenic pulmonary edema concomitant with convulsion is also reported when we give the oxygen, higher amount of oxygen for the prolonged period. Next, pulmonary toxicity. This is known as the Smith effect, which is very important. Occurs after a prolonged period of the oxygen delivery. In normal human, first sign of toxicity reported after 10-hour exposure of the pure oxygen at 1 atmospheric pressure. Next, pathophysiology of pulmonary toxicity. Higher concentration of the oxygen causes damage of the pulmonary epithelium. Inactive surfactant inactivates the surfactant, causes intravenous edema, interstitial thickening and fibrosis, and may cause the atelectasis. Next, clinical feature of the pulmonary toxicity or maybe the trachobronchitis. It may give the feature of the ARDS and pulmonary interstitial fibrosis. Next, ocular effect of the oxygen toxicity, you know very well. Reversible constriction of the peripheral field of the vision, progressive but reversible myopia, and very most important the retrolental fibroplasia, particularly in the children. Prevalence of the ocular effect is more when the oxygen is delivered through the tent rather than by the mask. Next, longest retrolental fibroplasia. It is the longest single cause of the blindness in the children below 6 months of age. Causes liberal administration of the oxygen of more than 40% concentration for a prolonged period of 1 to 2 days. In neonates, this concentration may cause intracranial hemorrhage or the chronic lung disease. Next, pathophysiology. Rectal vessels continue to grow after the birth. High oxygen causes vasoconstriction. When O2 is withdrawn, there is regeneration of the vessel, and these vessels extend into the vitreous beyond the retina, dilatation and rupture of the vessel, vitreous oration and hemorrhage, fibrosis, erosion, rectal detachment, and the blindness. Other toxic effects, abnormal RBC without reduction in the mass of the RBC, serous otitis media, osteonecrosis has been observed in space flights. Next. Now, we understood this high oxygen concentration or more oxygen also leads to the development of the free radical. Jasmine in 1954 documented the free radical behind the etiological factor of the oxygen toxicity. Free radical. Next, in any atom, when they either one electron goes out from the orbit or comes more one electron in the orbit, it becomes the free radical. Free radical is any atom or the molecule which has an unpaired electron in the outer ring. You know, once electron is lost, this is very important. Once electron is lost, it becomes positively charged. Positively charged electron attracts any available electron. वो अगल-बगल खोजना शुरू करेगा. Free radicals indiscriminately picks up electrons from the other atoms, which in turn converts the other atoms into the secondary free radicals, the setting of the chain of the reaction. Once the free radical will be formed, वो इलेक्ट्रॉन दूसरे अगल बगल से पिकअप करेगा, वो तो सेटिस्फाई हो जाएगा, दूसरा अगेन एक्ट एज ए फ्री रेडिकल. Dr. Derman Harmon first proposed the theory of aging as free radical oxidizes sensitive biological molecules leading to the random biological dependence. It is one of the causes of the aging. It is one of the causes of the aging. Next. How free radicals are formed? Normally, bonds do not split in a way that leaves a molecule with the unpaired electron. Normally, it doesn't happen. But when weak bonds split, free radicals are formed. Free radicals are very unstable and react quickly with other compounds to gain stability. Free radicals attack the nearest stable molecule, stealing its electron. And when the attacked molecule loses its electron, it becomes a free radical itself, beginning at the chain of the reaction. Next, how in the normal physiological condition, how this free radical is formed and how it is utilized, we will see here. During metabolism, oxidation of the food stuff is likely a controlled fire, but can also let sparks fly. There is a certain display of electron molecules. These sparks in this analogy are free electrons escaping the transport system. These unpaired electrons readily form the free radical. By immune system, cells to neutralize the viruses and the bacteria. This is also important in our biological processes. Environmental factors such as the pollution, radiation, cigarette smoking, herbicides can also form the free radicals. But by autooxidative reaction, free radicals are also formed. Next. Electron transport chain utilizes oxygen to generate energy in the form of the ATP. Oxygen acts as a terminal electron acceptor within the ETC. 2 to 5% of the total oxygen intake during both rest and exercise have the ability to form the highly damaging superoxide radical via the electron escape. Next, radical formation in the neutrophil, NADPH oxidase is activated, and then products of the toxic oxygen molecule you see here, this is the form, the 2O2, this is the free radical, and it causes the damage of the bacteria or the viruses. Next, conditions of the formation of the free radical. Again here we come, hyperbaric oxygen, accumulation of the excess CO2, activated granulocytes, when more oxygen is carried in the dissolved state, infections, stagnation of the blood supply, less utilization of the oxygen by the tissue, refractive shock, injured vessel facilitates the adherence of the neutrophil and release of the oxygen free radical. Next, free radicals in man. Numerous types of the free radicals are found within the body. Most common are the superoxide anion, hydroxyl radical, singlet oxygen, and hydrogen peroxide. Next, free radical in man. Superoxide anions are formed when oxygen acquires an additional electron. Within the mitochondria, oxygen is continuously being formed. Hydroxyl radical short-lived but most damaging. Interaction of copper or iron and H2O2 produces the hydroxyl ion. Hydrogen peroxide can be converted to the highly damaging hydroxyl radical or to be catalyzed and exercise harmlessly as the water. Singlet oxygen is not a free radical and acts as a catalyst for the free radical formation. It interacts with the other molecules leading to the formation of the new free radical. Next, effect of the free radical. What it does, what are the benefits and what are the harms? What is the simple benefit is this? This causes the damage of the bacteria and the viruses. It is one of the mechanisms to kill the bacteria and viruses by the innate property of the body. Free effect of the free radical. It causes the lipid peroxidation, inhibits nucleic acid synthesis, inhibits the protein synthesis, and inhibits cellular enzymes. Next, mechanism of the damage. How it causes the damage? In oxidation, electrons are removed and in reduction electrons are added, During oxidation of the foodstuffs, free electrons escaping the transport system and form the free radical, The free radical now goes and steals an electron from the other molecule, it becomes satisfied, but now the victim molecule has become a free radical. This goes on for quite some time. Next. The unsaturated lipid molecules of the cell. Membranes are particularly susceptible to this damaging free radical process and readily contribute to the uncontrolled chain reaction. Oxidative damage can lead to a breakdown or even the hardening of the lipid. Cell membranes are formed by the two layers of lipids, one layer of proteins. It causes the breakdown or the hardening of the cell membrane. In the cell wall, it is hardened for the lipid peroxidation. Then it becomes impossible for the cell to properly get its nutrients, get signals from the other cell to perform an action, and finally it dies. Next. Mechanism of the damage. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are abundant in cellular membrane and in low density lipoproteins. A free radical prefers to steal electron from the lipid membrane of the cell, initiating a free radical attack on the cell known as the lipid peroxidation. Next. In addition to the cell wall, other biological molecules including the DNA, RNA, and protein enzymes are also susceptible to the damage. The primary site of the free radical damage is the DNA found in the mitochondria. Extensive DNA damage accumulates over the time and shuts down the mitochondria, causing the cells to die and the organism to age. Next. This is the incorporation of the free radical in the DNA molecule. Next. Roles of the metals. There are also the certain transition metals that have the free electrons in the outside. It acts as a free radical. Next. Now, the role of the antioxidants to combat with these free radicals. History of the antioxidants. In the late 19th and early 20th century, antioxidants were used to prevent the metal corrosion, the vulcanization of the rubber, and the polymerization of the fuels in the internal combustion engines. In biology, it was used in preventing the oxidation of the unsaturated fat, which is the cause of their acidity. Identification of the vitamin A, C, and E as antioxidants revolutionize the biochemistry of the living organism. Next. Antioxidant means against oxidation. What it does? Antioxidants work to protect lipids from the pre-oxidation by the radicals. Antioxidants are effective because they are willing to give up their own electrons to free radicals. When a free radicals gain the electron from an antioxidant, it no longer needs to attack the cell, and then the chain reaction of the oxidation is broken down. It is the difference between the antioxidant. When it gives the electron, it doesn't convert into the free radical again. After donating an electron, an antioxidant becomes a free radical by definition, but it doesn't. Antioxidants in this state are not harmful because they have the ability to accommodate the change in electrons without becoming the reactive. Next. Classification of antioxidants are two types, water-soluble and the lipid-soluble. Water-soluble antioxidants react with the oxidants in the cell cytoplasm and the blood plasma. Lipid-soluble antioxidants protect the cell membrane from the oxidation. Next. Availability of the antioxidants. These compounds may be synthesized in the body or obtained from the diet. Glutathione or ubiquinone present within the cell, uric acid distributed throughout the body. Production by any one antioxidant depends on its concentration and its reactivity towards the particular reactive oxygen species. Some compounds chelate transition metals and prevent production of the free radicals in the cell. Transferrin and ferritin, selenium, and the zinc are the commonly referred to as antioxidant nutrients. These chemicals elements have no antioxidant action but are required for the activity of some antioxidant enzymes. Enzymes that act as an antioxidants are the superoxide dismutase, catalase, and peroxyredoxins. Next, superoxide dismutase. Next, superoxide dismutase is a very common and important enzyme present in our body. This enzyme is present in the cell and the extracellular fluids. This enzyme contains metal ion and as a cofactor like the copper, zinc, magnesium, or the iron. In humans, the copper, zinc, SOD is present in the cytosol. Magnesium is present in the mitochondria. SOD in extracellular fluids contain the copper and zinc in its active sites. Superoxide has the fastest turnover number and it outcompetes the damaging reactions of the superoxide. Next. Catalase, conversion of the hydrogen peroxide to water and oxygen. Peroxyredoxins are peroxidase catalyze the reduction of the hydrogen peroxide, organic hydroperoxidase, and the peroxynitrate. Next, glutathione, it found in the body itself, synthesized in the cell. one of the most important cellular antioxidants, particularly in the liver, and are serve as the detoxification of the metabolism. Next, glutathione system, glutathione reductase, glutathione peroxidase, glutathione S transferase. Glutathione peroxidase contains 4 selenium cofactors. It catalyzes the breakdown of the hydrogen peroxidase and organic hydroperoxidases. Next, melatonin. It is very important. It is a powerful antioxidant that can easily cross the cell membrane and then cross the blood-brain barrier. Melatonin, once oxidized, cannot be reduced to its former state. Therefore, it has been referred to as a terminal antioxidant. Next, vitamin E. These are the antioxidants. Alpha tocopherol, primary defender against oxidation, lipid-soluble antioxidants, protects cell membrane against oxidation by reacting with the lipid radicals produced in the lipid oxidation chain reaction. The oxidized alpha tocopherol radical recycled back to the active reduced form. Daily recommended dose is 15 units per day in man and 12 units for women. Next, ascorbic acid and vitamin C. We have taken so many antioxidants like this E, C, A, not synthesized in the humans and must be obtained from the diet. So ascorbic acid is reducing agent and can reduce thereby neutralizes the reactive oxygen species such as the hydrogen peroxide. Ascorbic acid is also substrate for the antioxidant enzyme ascorbate peroxidase. Also helps to return the vitamin E to its active form. The recommended dose is the 60 mg per day, but intake above the 2000 mg may be associated with the adverse side effects in the some individuals. Next, performance in general, antioxidants supplements have not been shown to be useful as performance enhancer. The one exception to this is the vitamin E, which has been shown to be useful in athletes exercising at high altitude. Next, how much is enough? Once thought to be harmless, but increasingly we are becoming aware of the interaction and the potential toxicity. In the normal concentration found in the body, vitamin C and beta carotene are antioxidants, but higher concentrations they are pro-oxidants and thus harmful. Very little is known about the long-term consequences of the mega doses of these antioxidants. The body's finely tuned mechanisms are carefully balanced to withstand a variety of insults. Taking chemicals without a complete understanding of all or of these effects may disturb its balance. Next, when the oxygen-free radicals swamps over the enzymes and antioxidants activity present in the body, free radicals accumulate to age and the disease and finally death. Next, recommendations regarding the oxygen and the other things. Use oxygen whenever there is need only. Try to keep the concentration below 40%. Try to withdraw oxygen as soon as possible. Follow a balanced training program. Eat 5 servings of fruit or vegetables per day. This will ensure that you are developing your inherent antioxidant systems and that your diet is providing the necessary components. Consider taking a vitamin E supplement. Do not over-supplement. Next, something new. Green tea among the more promising sources of the natural antioxidants. Cooked milk products have been found to have a significant higher antioxidant capacity when treated with the tea catechins and they did not when treated with the alpha tocopherol. Tart cherry. Next, spices, clove is very important actually antioxidant. Garlic acid, olive oil. Next, grape pomace. Wines are known to have a higher oxygen radical scamming activity than the juices from the grapes from which the wines are produced. Antioxidant capacity of the wines vary. Red wines having the highest antioxidant property. Grape pomace in particular seem to be promising as a new source of the antioxidants. Next, future trends. The synergy between the polyphenols and the alpha tocopherols is now being confirmed. Use of the green tea extract in meat system has presented a breakthrough in exploitation of the synergy between the nutrient and the non-nutrient antioxidants. When the mechanism behind the antioxidant synergy will be available, green revolution in the field of the ingredient industry will become into a shape to modify the plants to produce the molecules that will have an antioxidant and antibacterial effects. Thank you.
Oxygen is the life, but here Dr. Sinha has said about the toxicity of oxygen, and he has correlated with the free radicals with the oxygen toxicity. So thank you very much. If anybody has some question or any clarification, please may ask the question. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Sir, hyperoxia. Sir, I'm me from Kolkata.
Next. Exact pathophysiology of the reduction of the peripheral region is not clearly understood, but it has been absorbed when we give the oxygen for the prolonged period. There is the diminution of the peripheral field vision, but it is reversible. It is the reversible. You know, oxygen, though it is essential for the life, but for the survival, you can understand the carbon dioxide is more useful than the oxygen. Oxygen always causes the vasoconstriction. Oxygen always causes the vasoconstriction. Carbon dioxide always causes the vasodilation. Maybe by vasoconstriction, it may diminish the peripheral vision. Maybe. Regarding the toxicity of the oxygen, one thing I have already explained you. I told you carbon dioxide is more useful. How? It causes the vasodilation, one thing. Second one thing, if it again accumulated in the blood, it will cause another consequences like more carbon dioxide will be accumulated, more formation of SCO3, more formation of the HN and the SO3, more acidity, and will again lead to the death. It will cause. But initially the CO2 is essential for the vasodilatation. Oxygen toxicity, what happens? How it causes? Initially I told you, when we give the more oxygen, what happened in the corona case I am not here to explain. But what happened? I have already told you the pulmonary toxicity of the oxygen. It is documented. It is not by me. It is documented. Once we give the oxygen in higher than the required by the hemoglobin, you know, the normal physiology, solubility of a gas depends upon the partial pressure too. More the pressure will increase, there will be the more dissolved in the gas in the oxygen. So normally the dissolved from the oxygen is only 0.3 ml. When we increase the pressure or the hyperbaric oxygen, naturally the dissolved from the oxygen will be more and more and more. When it reaches to the tissue level, what will happen? Tissue needs the oxygen. It will extract the oxygen from the dissolved state first. वो तो अपना ऑक्सीजन लेके अपना काम कर लिया. But the carbon dioxide that is accumulated in the tissue, it is not transported back into the blood to go to the lung to be expired out. The what consequences will be there? The carbon dioxide will be accumulated there. Carbon dioxide will be accumulated there, and it causes the hypercapnia. And once the series of the physiological consequences will start, the series of them, CO2 will accumulate, SO3 will form, CO2 will form, H will form. This H will go again to cross the blood-brain barrier, crosses the sheath, initiate the respiratory center. There is the tachypnea. So again, the consequences is like this. Second one thing is very important. We have to know that I told. More the time we will provide the oxygen to the body, it will provide the free radicals. And you know, our cell membrane is made up of the two layers of the lipids. Their electrons are very, उसके जो carbon atoms का उसको बड़ा easily steal करता है, immediately. You know, पूरे cell membrane के एक carbon atom को उन्होंने steal कर लिया. What will happen? It will damage. It will damage, particularly in the alveolar membrane. It will damage. The pulmonary epithelium will leak. Blood will come out. Sorry, water will come out. It will accumulate in between the alveoli, may cause the pulmonary edema. अब आप confused हैं whether this pulmonary edema is due to the high oxygen concentration or high oxygen toxicity or something else. How can we define? As a physiologist, we can say that this may be due to this gout. As a physician, you can say this may be due to the particular disease. How can we justify it? So, though we have used oxygen in the plenty, लेकिन ठीक है, we have saved many lives by giving the oxygen, but now again we have to consider it. In neonates, particularly in the children, we do not keep the oxygen for more prolonged time. I've already told you, radioactive fibrillation is the commonest cause of blindness below the 6 months of age. What happens here? Patient delivers in the having birth asphyxia, we give the oxygen, देते जा रहे हैं, कोई पता ही नहीं कितना देते चले गए. Patient भी ठीक हो गया, बच्चा भी ठीक हो गया, चला गया. We never asked him to go for the checkup for the ophthalmologist. बाद में पता लगा बच्चे को तो आंखें दिखाई नहीं पड़ा. हुआ है कुछ नहीं इसमें. What I told you, oxygen, this causes the vasoconstriction. अभी तो कंस्ट्रिक्ट कर लिया, आराम हो गया. ऑक्सीजन हमने विड्रॉ किया, रिजनरेटिव वेसल है, वो रेटिना को पार कर लिया. अब रेटिना के ऊपर अगर आपका वेसल्स आ जाएगा, whether it will be reflection? No. And then the blindness will be there.
Neovascularization.
Neovascularization. उसकी वेस्कुलर इज इंक्रीज्ड. अब कोई चीज आपको 2 दिन खाना नहीं मिले, तीसरा दिन खाना मिलेगा तो क्या करिएगा? This vascularization process is increased. This vascularization process is increased. So this is the idea. Yeah, this is the recommendation from us, from our side. Use oxygen. Always use oxygen. It's very necessary. There are so many conditions. यहाँ पे discussion की बात नहीं है.
Yes, sir.
Where oxygen may be toxic to humanity at the time of the death. Causes death too. ठीक है.
Sir, one more question. Antioxidant.
Yes.
Role of antioxidant. Role of antioxidant. Is there any effect to stop or slow down the pathological changes in metabolic disorder and the metabolic disorder like in our liver cell and degenerative changes in our retinal tissue? So antioxidant has any direct role to stop or slow down this pathology?
Yes. मैं आपको अभी पहले बताया, we have to use the anti-radical is as much as necessary. आप जितने आपके you are the dealing the laboratory tests, neutrophil very common, खूब देखते हैं रोज जैसे करते हैं. We go to the function of the neutrophil. What is its causes? You see. फर्स्ट फेगोसाइटोसिस, पहले तो उन्होंने खा लिया, छोटा नॉट एंटीवायरल वायरस, पहले तो उन्होंने खा लिया, लाइसोसोम्स आर देयर, उन्होंने डिग्रेड कर दिया. देयर आर द एंजाइम्स प्रोड्यूस दैट आई टोल्ड यू, NADPH, फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द फ्री रेडिकल्स, एंड दिस फ्री रेडिकल हाइड्रोक्सिल और सुपरऑक्साइड, ये रेडिकल बैक्टीरिया वायरस बेचारा एक सेल का होता है, उसके एक सेल के एक मेम्ब्रेन का एक इलेक्ट्रॉन को चुरा लिया, क्या हुआ? डैमेज हो गया, मर गया ना. तो आप अगर फ्री रेडिकल नहीं भी बनेगा तब भी मुश्किल है आपको कॉम्बैट करना, और ज़्यादा बनेगा तो उसको मारते मारते आपको भी मारना शुरू कर देगा. योर एपिथेलियल सेल्स विल बी द डैमेज एंड इट मे गिव अनदर कॉज, अनदर डैमेज विल बी देयर.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Dr. R.K. Sinha, sir.
Thank you.
Hello. Sushma Kumari, Associate Professor, Department of Blood Bank, to come forward for her speech. And on behalf of our scientific committee, I welcome you. And
to all of you in our glorious Institute of Jharkhand, and my heartiest the goal of any transfusion service must be to provide adequate and safe blood and blood product to the recipients. With every 1 unit of blood transfusion, there is 1% chance of transfusion-related complications, including transfusion-transmitted infections. One of the greatest challenges of transfusion medicine is preventing transmission of transfusion-transmitted infections. The Drug and Cosmetic Act 1945 mandates screening against 5 major infections, namely HIV-1 and 2, hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, syphilis and malaria in all the donated bloods. Next is होगा ना? NACO recommended use of 100% sensitive third or fourth generation ELISA HIV 1 and 2 test kits for screening of all donated bloods. Most of the studies worldwide show majority of the transfusion transmitted infections, positive blood donors are associated with viral monoinfection, that is either infection with hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus or HIV. But few studies also tell the truth of double viral co-infection among apparently healthy blood donors. The HIV and hepatitis B virus or HIV and hepatitis C co-infection has been reported worldwide, and some studies provide evidence that rate of hepatitis B virus is higher than that of hepatitis C virus infection in HIV infected patients. Material and methods. This is a retrospective study done at our blood center RIMS, Ranchi from March 2017 to February 2019, and it is a 2 years study, and all the blood samples were screened for HIV-1 and HIV-2 antigen antibody, that is using 4th generation kit, HBsAg and anti-SCB antibodies by using 3rd generation kit of Abbott diagnostic by using chemiluminescence technique with model architect I1000 SR. Test results were taken and relative light units. Blood unit showing result 1.0 relative light unit, that is in short RLU or more, as well as gray zone results, that is the result ranging from 0.90 to 0.99 were considered as positive for corresponding infection. Results. A total of 57,424 blood units were screened from March 2017 to February 2019, where we got 1,064 donors, that is 1.85%. Donors were found positive for one of the viral infection, either hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus or HIV. These are the mono infection, and the highest among the mono infection, the highest prevalence was seen for hepatitis B virus, that is 0.99%, followed by hepatitis C virus 0.74% and HIV, that is 0.11%. And among these 40 donors, that is 0.024% donors were showed double viral co-infection. Among double viral co-infection, 0.17%, that is 10 donors showed double viral co-infection with hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus, and 3 donors showed double viral co-infection with hepatitis B virus and HIV, and only 1 donor showed double viral co-infection with hepatitis C virus and HIV. यहाँ से हो जा रहा है, कोई बात नहीं. And the table 1 is showing the prevalence of viral monoinfection among the blood donors. The table 2 is showing prevalence of double viral co-infection among the blood donors. Table 3 is showing test result of double viral co-infection, that is hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus among the blood donors. Table 4 is showing test result of double viral co-infections with hepatitis B and HIV. Table 5 is showing test result of co-infection with hepatitis C and HIV. Now come to the discussion. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, that is HIV, hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus are the three most common chronic viral infections documented worldwide. HIV is responsible for about 40 million chronic infections, while hepatitis C and hepatitis B cause 130 million and 370 million chronic infection respectively. More than 33 million people are infected with HIV worldwide. Approximately 20% of HIV positive patients who acquire acute hepatitis virus infection develop chronic hepatitis B infection compared to 5% of HIV negative persons only. In US and Europe, HIV and hepatitis B virus co-infection was reported to 6 to 14%. That is very much high. In India, the overall rate of infection with hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus varies from 1 to 6%. The rate of hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus co-infection in HIV patients been reported in few studies in Nepal also. Doing due test, है ना? Sometimes जो है ना weak RH antigens are not appear in your routine just like test tube method test. So and for just knowing whether it is truly RH positive or RH negative, it is required to do due test. After doing due test, you can give whether it is truly RH negative or RH positive.
Due test capture incomplete RH factor.
Now,
No, Madam, good morning. It was a very nice session. I am Kishan Ghosh from Agartala.
Due test
For in your
capture
surveillance,
incomplete RH factor.
in your surveillance, have you from which community or what are the, see nowadays drug is one of the reasons that they are having multiple infections, HIV, ACV and all other things we found in our state also. So in this regard, have you taken any history?
We have taken the study only for blood donors who are attending our blood bank. Not going to the community. These are the only study among the blood donors.
Very useful for all the lab technicians all over India. Not over India, because is quality. Quality क्या है? As per ISO standard, the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bear on its ability to satisfy the stated or implied needs. In simpler terms, हम लोग बोल सकते हैं कि the good quality is what when it complies with the requirements specified by the standard. Or lab quality even simpler, it is defined as accuracy, reliability and timeliness of reporting test results. So one of the cases, all are responsible for working in a high throughput lab. हर कोई काम करते हैं अच्छे लैब में. तो what is the permissible या acceptable error क्या हो सकता है हर लैब में? या तो 0% करेंगे या 1%, 2%, 3% और it depends on the time. आप कितना error कर सकते हैं अपने लैब में, ये आप देखिए कैसे करेंगे. So achieving a 99% अगर हम लोग क्वालिटी मेंटेन कर रहे हैं, दैट मीन्स वी आर डूइंग 1% एरर. मतलब अगर 100 टेस्ट कर रहे हैं लैब में तो वी आर परफॉर्मिंग 1 एरर. दिस एरर इंक्रीजेज. इज इट परमिसेबल? क्या ये एक्सेप्टेबल है? 100 टेस्ट में एक एरर, इज इट एक्सेप्टेबल? हाँ, इट कैन बी ड्यू टू मेनी फैक्टर्स लाइक हमारे ह्यूमन एरर्स, ह्यूमन या इन्वायरमेंटल प्रॉब्लम्स की वजह से, या बायोलॉजिकल एरर्स हो सकता है, ह्यूमन मिस्टेक्स हो सकता है. तो इट कैन बी ड्यू टू एनी कॉजेस. सो वेदर इट इज एक्सेप्टेबल और नॉट. सो 1% एरर मीन्स ultimately all quality management system elements must be addressed at the level. 12 जो elements है वो सबको address करते हुए ही any quality system should be strengthened. Thank you. who all have initiated and given me opportunity to have a speak on this base.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you very much. Is the most important plays a role in our profession. Whatever the diagnostic test we are doing, since the external as well as internal control is very most important. So that gives the certification to our the quality. So we have to more focus on the quality control system. Whatever the madam delivered the very important lecture, external quality control as well as internal quality control. So souvenir, so produced by our scientific. Thank you very much for sharing your important time to us. Thank you very much. So, may I request to Dr. B.N. Shukla sir is the chairman of this session. Dr. Shukla sir, may I request you? Please come, sir. You are please. Dr. Shukla is the chairman of this committee, scientific seminar. I think he is more busy in our other than the scientific work. So please have a seat, sir. Here.
Hello. A very good morning to one and all. Good morning to all my senior dignitaries, my all laboratory technician friends, my media personal friends, and a very big thank you to the organizer of Aimlta who gave opportunity to present our presentation, which may help. We will try that it may help you in your day-to-day practices. I myself, Dr. Jitendra Kumar, microbiologist from Gandhinagar Hospital, CCL Ranchi. Being microbiologist, I will try to cover as much as possible topics, and there will be a scope to discuss so that we can go on clarification. But I have chosen a case study. There should be a start from where we can have our discussion going on, and this case seems relevant because we have underwent the heavy sufferings and deadness of the COVID-19 pandemic, and during that COVID-19 pandemic, this black fungus or mucormycosis was very commonly known. And we have talked a lot about that as a microbiologist and a technician. So I have chosen a case study. First, we will have introduction about that. Actually, mucormycosis has got a lot of presentation, and rhino-orbital mucormycosis is most serious, rapidly progressive and fatal form of disease with a very high mortality rate of 70 to 100%. It manifests itself in setting of poorly immunocompromised conditions like diabetic mellitus, ketoacidosis, chronic kidney disease, long use of steroid, hematological malignancy, and all immunocompromised status. So we have to get through the concept that mucormycosis is not a very common disease, and one who encounters with fungal spores of mucor, you are not going to infect with mucormycosis. म्यूकरमाइकोसिस बहुत कॉमन नहीं है, ये जान ले, ये बहुत बड़ा मिसनोवर है, ठीक है, इट इज़ वेरी डेंजरस, बहुत खतरनाक है। पर जिन्हीं को भी अगर फंगल स्पोर का इनहेलेशन होता है, सबको म्यूकरमाइकोसिस नहीं होगा। वाई म्यूकरमाइकोसिस टेक्स प्लेस इन दो सेटिंग्स हु आर इम्यूनो कॉम्प्रोमाइज। आपको पेशेंट को इम्यूनो कॉम्प्रोमाइज होना होगा ताकि उसमें फंगल स्पोर जाता है, देन इट विल एग्रेवेट इनटू द प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ म्यूकरमाइकोसिस. सो one not healthy people will get infected with mucormycosis. Same happened in COVID-19 also. Those immunocompromised patients got infected with mucormycosis because of immunocompromised status. And this case, my particular case is of rhinoorbital mucormycosis, which infect brain and nose. From nose it will infect to brain also and eye also. And this is particularly associated, unlikely COVID-19, it is associated with diabetic ketoacidosis. Now coming to a bit classification, we should know about that. It belongs to the order Mucorales of subphylum Mucormycetona. Formerly it was known as Zygomycetes. Presently freely in soil and environment as saprophytes, commonly known as bread mold. सभी के घर में हम लोग जब ब्रेड खराब हो जाता है, बासी हो जाता है, तो उसमें जो फफूंदी लग जाता है ब्लैक वाइट टाइप का, ग्रे टाइप का, उसको हम लोग म्यूकर बोलते हैं. नाउ इट हैज गॉट 2 orders. It has been classified into 2 orders, that is Mucorales and Entomophthalales. म्यूकरेल्स में जो एग्जांपल है रिजोपस का है, रिजोपस ओराइजे, रिजोपस माइक्रोस्पोस, म्यूकर रेसिमोसस, राइजोपस, राइजोम्यूकर पुसिलेस. और इंट्रोमोप्थलेस में है बैसिडियो बोलस रैनेरम, कोनेडियो बोलस कोरोनेटस. It is a bit lengthy, but as we will proceed through case, it will become interesting. And it is highly invasive, resulting in high morbidity and mortality. And the presentation of mucor takes place as a opportunistic presentation, like pulmonary mucormycosis. In case of COVID-19, we have encountered a lot of patients and which were on long-standing ventilators. Cutaneous mucormycosis, gastrointestinal mucormycosis, such as necrotizing enterocolitis, and in premature neonates and disseminated mucormycosis. Now coming to now this is the case report. Now coming to the particular case. A 60-year-old man with long history of diabetes mellitus for about 10 years was on irregular medication. Diabetes का patient था 10 साल का, and he was on irregular medication. He presented with serosanguinous discharge. Serosanguinous discharge मतलब blood के साथ serous का mix, mucoid और blood mixed discharge from left nostril along swelling left periorbital edema. ये बाएं साइड में दिख रहा होगा कि उनका वो आंख का स्वेलिंग है. Pain and tenderness along inflammation over left cheek and left medial canthus. Left eye show complete cataract with failure to see anything and partial cataract found in right eye. Blood examination जैसा हम लोग देख रहे हैं, blood sugar was high, fasting was 412 mg per dl and PP was 496 mg per dl with urea 94, creatinine 1.2 within normal limit, and serum bilirubin was 0.8 mg per dl, SGOT 72, SGPT 169 international unit per liter. And since urine ketone body was present, and that was the case of diabetic ketoacidosis, and urine sugar was also 4+, and urine protein was trace. In TLC showing leukocytosis with predominant neutrophilia, and hemoglobin was 11.2, a bit anemic, and with platelet count it is 1.5 lakhs, and serological test was within normal limit, and COVID-19 was negative. Chest X-ray, increased bronchovascular marking with no obliteration of costophrenic and cardiophrenic angle, no consolidation found. This chest X-ray has been done. This is a wide perspective to understand. We cannot rely only on blood test. We have to go for radiological test also, blood test also, clinical examination also. So from this podium and stage, I would like to try to communicate that we all are a part of medical science, and we all should have multiple dimensional attitude for diagnosing a case. We should not have tunnel vision that only blood test will give the diagnosis, and each and everybody, whether it is doctor or lab technician, everybody has got the onus to help in diagnosis, and everybody can suggest in this diagnosis. So chest X-ray was within normal limit. Chest X-ray was done to rule out whether pulmonary mucormycosis or pulmonary presentation of mucormycosis was present or not. and especially that was the time of COVID-19 when I have took this case. MRI brain and PNS, it showed characteristic fungal infection, features of fungal infection involving both sides of ethmoid sinuses, more on right side and also in the left sphenoid sinus, which mild left-sided periorbital edema. In the picture we have seen, this is the MRI finding, and as the MRI finding is indicated that evidence of fungal infection has transcended to the sinuses, more on the right side of the ethmoid sinuses and a bit on the left side also. And CT scan paranasal sinus and skull also revealed severe obliteration of left nasal opening due to thickening of maxillary, sphenoid and frontal sinuses. This is the picture. This is the report. हिल जा रहा है ना, आगे आगे ठीक है. दिस इज रिजिड इंडोस्कोपिक एग्जामिनेशन. अब यहाँ तक तो हम लोग ब्लड टेस्ट किए, सीटी स्कैन किए, एमआरआई किए, फंगल एविडेंस देखने के लिए. अब हम लोग चलते हैं प्रत्यक्ष म्यूकरमाइकोसिस का जो फंगल प्रेजेंटेशन है किस तरह दिखता है. On admission, he complained, this is the presentation, he presented with headache, giddiness, complete loss of vision from left eye along pain, stuffiness and serosanguinous discharge from left nose. और ब्रोंकोस्कोपी, रिजिड ब्रोंकोस्कोपी, जब नाक के भीतर हम लोग घुसाए, it revealed black necrosed tarry nasal septum. वहां पे काला कलर का nasal septum दिख रहा है. वो nasal septum it should be pink and red of healthy patient, but due to invasion of mucormycosis, several ulceration, bullous lesion and necrosed tissue, black colored tissue of nasal septum, nasal conchae and terminates was seen with inflamed mucosa and serosanguinous discharge from left nostril. Right sided nasal mucosa also showed blackening at progress, deep but discharge was absent. Now, once we found on endoscopic examination that it is black necros and with several previous blood examination and CT scan MRI finding, now we reached to a state that it is confirmed that it is mucormycosis, and now we started the diagnosis. कि कैसे हम लोग अब प्रोसीड करेंगे. प्रोसीड करना बहुत जरूरी है, और किसी भी पैथोलॉजिस्ट माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट के लिए प्रोसीड करना किसी भी डिजीज का डायग्नोसिस के लिए क्या है, फर्स्ट द फॉरमोस्ट आई वुड लाइक टू नो फ्रॉम हाउस, पहला चीज क्या है हम लोग के लिए, दैट इज सैंपल. सैंपल कैसे लेना है, क्या लेना है, एंड द सैंपल इन दिस केस विल बी डेड टिश्यू ऑफ द नेजल सेप्टम, टर्मिनेट और म्यूकोजा. हम लोग रिजिड इंडोस्कोप से स्क्रैपिंग ले लेते हैं, और उस स्क्रैपिंग का क्या करेंगे, फर्स्ट इन्वेस्टिगेशन विल बी KOH माउंट, पोटेशियम हाइड्रोक्साइड माउंट ऑफ ब्रोंकियल स्क्रैपिंग, एंड डिस्चार्ज जो लेते हैं ऑन 10% KOH माउंट. And we revealed broad accepted entangled hyphae, but rhizoid were not absorbed in any field. I don't have that pointer, otherwise also that is a broad accepted hyphae. The characteristic of mucormycosis is that there will be no septate. Another class of fungus, that aspergillus has septa, but in mucormycosis no septa will be there, broad accepta, and it is branched. Now, apart from this KOH mount, we will simultaneously think multiple things in our mind. Any infection or any lesion, any sample, it is not sure that it will always contain fungal infection or bacterial infection. We should think of totality, that it can also contain bacterial infection also, mycobacterial infection also, tubercular infection or fungal infection. So, with that approach, I performed ZN staining from that, but no AFB was found. So that clarified that no mycobacterial infection was there. Cytology was done, cytological examination was done, thinking that whether it is malignant or not. So malignant cells was also not found on cytological examination. Then culture of nasopharyngeal swab and secretion was done on both bacterial culture media and fungal culture media. on bacterial culture media like mutant agar, which is a very basic media on which gram positive, gram negative both grows, and McConkey agar, it is a bit selective media, indicator media, especially for gram negative, gram positive don't grow in that. And blood agar is a enriched media in which both gram positive and gram negative grow, and on the basis of hemolysis we can appreciate the hemolytic property of gram positive. And SDA, sabrodextrose agar media, is done especially selected for fungal culture. And bacterial isolate, in this case Klebsiella pneumoniae was isolated from mutant agar, blood agar and McConkey agar, and mucor species was isolated from sabrodextrose agar. As we can see the morphological picture of the Klebsiella, it is mucoid and the media is mutant agar, and it is very beautiful mucoid colony appears, it is confluent, and the right side is sabrodextrose agar showing white fluffy growth of the mucor. So aim and objective, as we know, we are here to find the diagnosis. I will skip this slide. Now how we will proceed? Materials and method. Material, how we will take this sample? As I have discussed, sample is the most important thing for we microbiologists or pathologists in laboratory sciences. And if your sample collection is not appropriate, you are going to land in no man area. So nasopharyngeal swabbing is done. This left side is swab, nasopharyngeal swab, and that is the method how we swab. We rotate it clockwise and for 30 seconds to 1 minute so that we could reach nasal turbinate, nasal septum or concha, and then we will inoculate over the media which we select, whether you have to inoculate on mutant agar or blood agar or McConkey agar for bacterial culture and for sabrodextrose agar for fungal culture. Now coming to result, this is the growth. We can all see this is the growth of 24 hours of this sample of the nasal scraping. First, the growth of mucor is white fluffy, and as the day passes and right hand side both growth is of 48 hours, and it will turn to grey. One misnomer is there. I have also introduced with black fungus because it is very catchy name, and we all know it is mucormycosis with black. But actually, during working we have seen the transformation of color from white fluffy to grey. It is not black, and black fungus is especially a classically different class of fungus called a cutaneous fungus. It comes under cutaneous fungus and called Pidra. So usually हम लोग बोलते रहते हैं black fungus हो गया, but that was not characteristically and scientifically it is not correct to say it is a black fungus. It comes under the class of Zygomycetes. And black fungus is a very different entity or different class which comes under cutaneous mycosis. So once the growth has appeared, this is the growth, and from that growth we will prepare LPCB mount. This is the morphological structure, morphological growth of the mucor, and that has to be confirmed whether it is which type of fungus. And for confirmation of mucormycosis or any fungus, what method we choose? That is LPCB mount, lactophenol cotton blue mount. That a bit of the sample of the fluffy fungus is taken and LPCB, just a very simple test, 1 to 2 drop of blue color lactophenol cotton blue is added, and it is a wet mount test. Cover slip is put over that, and we can see over 48. That we can see that bulb or sporangiospore is present and headed over the stalk, and these are the two pictures which I have taken from my work, and this is the picture which is taken from the book to show the anatomical structure. The bulb is a sporangium, and it consists of small spores called sporangiospore which get disseminated in the air and transfer, and through nose or nostril through inhalation it will get inserted into the pulmonary channel to call pulmonary mucormycosis, and if it ascends from nasal septum or nose to brain, then it will cause mucormycosis. If it will rhinocerebral mucormycosis, if it will ascends to orbit or nasal septum, it will lead to orbital mucormycosis. So depending upon the trajectory or movement of the fungal spores to your body, and the foremost important thing as I have discussed earlier also, that the body is to be, the patient is to be immunocompromised. This is the sporangium, a bulb-like sporangium, and it consists a small spherical sporangiospore, which is the infective form, and which will grow into fungus and columelize this stalk. And this we can compare with the picture. This is the reporting as we do in Gandhinagar hospital, and that was the peak of the COVID-19 phase. Now this is bacterial isolation, that previously also we have studied that is Klebsiella mucoid colony on Newton agar, and that this is the morphological examination, morphological appreciation of the Klebsiella. But simple morphology of the growth over any media is not confirmation. So we have to confirm whether it is of which species, and for confirmation the most gold standard is gram staining. For gram staining we see that pink colored bacilli, that is gram negative, is being confirmed, and this Klebsiella on the McConkie agar is also, it is pink color, that is lactose fermenter, and pink mucoid, and that has to be appreciated by the thick gram negative bacilli, thick short stout bacilli, that is characteristic of Klebsiella. This is the sensitivity pattern of the gram negative bacteria Klebsiella, and it was sensitive to amikacin, Cephalosporin salvactum, meropenem, and piperacillin tazobactam. So we have to cover syndromic, polysyndromic approach. बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन भी हो सकता है, फंगल इन्फेक्शन भी हो सकता है, ट्यूबरकुलर इन्फेक्शन भी हो सकता है, मैलिग्नेंट इन्फेक्शन भी हो सकता, मैलिग्नेंसी भी हो सकता है. तो वी हैव टू थिंक मल्टी डायमेंशनली. कोई भी डायग्नोसिस हो तो पॉलीसिंड्रोमिक अप्रोच होना चाहिए, और डायग्नोसिस के लिए भी हम लोग का ब्रेन खुला, ये नहीं कि बस हम माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट है तो बस फंगस खोजे, बैक्टीरिया खोजे, छोड़ दिए. नहीं, हमको ठीक है, हम सजेस्ट कर देंगे अपने पैथोलॉजिस्ट फ्रेंड को कि इसका साइटोलॉजिकल एग्जामिनेशन भी होना चाहिए, मैलिग्नेंट सेल्स भी खोजना चाहिए, ट्यूबरकुलर इन्फेक्शन के लिए भी खोजना चाहिए. तो वी हैव टू हैव broad concept and multi-dimensional approach for diagnosis. That will learn to, हमारा मुख्य उद्देश्य सिर्फ डायग्नोसिस बस निकालना नहीं कि बैक्टीरिया निकल गया, फंगल निकल, हमारा मुख्य उद्देश्य है कि we have to play eminent role in diagnosis of the disease, and it is a holistic approach. Once again I am telling, it is a holistic approach, and onus comes on doctor also, and microbiologist or pathologist or lab technician, everybody is responsible for that, and any level of breach can lead to in no man area. Now ये एक वीडियो था जो मैं दिखाना चाह रहा था. हाँ, यहाँ हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि ब्लैक कलर का चार्ड नेक्रो नेजल सेप्टम में रिजिड इंडोस्कोप घुसाया गया है. एक बार मैं कोशिश करता हूँ. A rigid endoscope, nasal septum है वो nostril के through nasal septum. The whole nasal septum has been obliterated. It is charred, black, necrosed. The graveness of this mucormycosis is to so great extent that it will chart, it will ulcerate, it will erode all the anatomical structure. This is the growth. Once again, the black charred nasal septum, nasal conchae, and bulla, different anatomical structure has been obliterated and damaged. Now coming to discussion, mucormycosis is third most invasive mycosis in order of importance after candidiasis and aspergillosis, and is caused by fungus of class Zygomycetes. The incidence of mucormycosis is approximately 1.7 cases per 10 lakhs inhabited per year. It is not a common disease. It is not a common disease. It will not infect you until and unless you are immunocompromised. Early surgical debridement. In that case also, by rigid endoscopy, we found out the area of damage, and we tried to resect that by ENT specialist. That early surgical debridement followed by administration of liposomal amphotericin B along with antibiotics as a sensitivity pattern play pivotal role in recovery. One thing very honestly I would like to say from this podium, that this treatment in mucormycosis, very sorry to say, is a palliation. Treatment by surgical debridement or installation of amphotericin B or administration of antibiotics or antifungal, it is just a palliation, because once you have seen what is the level of the damage and necrosis, and once necrosis has started, it will ascend to various anatomical organs, whether it is brain, orbit, nose, eye, lungs, and it gets really very difficult. You can debride only those tissue which you are seeing, but deeper mycosis, it is very difficult to treat. But once again, that catching point again come to onus on this laboratory science specialist and we all fellows, that prevention is better than cure in this case. You find out the diagnosis, you just find out whether it is bacterial infection or fungal infection as early as possible, whether it has ascended to deeper tissue, and then we can achieve the result. Otherwise it gets very result. So early diagnosis followed by appropriate treatment is the mainstay of the therapy. To conclude, it concludes that earliest identification, diagnosis and prompt treatment with help of clinical analysis, blood examination for detecting metabolic conditions, diabetes mellitus, diabetic ketoacidosis, CKD, chronic kidney disease, detecting serum iron level, performing KOH mount of debrided tissue, and finally gold standard confirmation by fungal culture followed by LPCB mount. A slight delay in diagnosis and inappropriate treatment can lead the war against mucormycosis very discouraging. Thank you. As bacterial infection isolate was Klebsiella, so I performed bacterial sensitivity. So it is very obvious that you should ask that why I have not done antifungal sensitivity testing. I think that you want to know about academic aspect of antifungal sensitivity testing. We can do it. A very blanket statement, we can do it and we should do for mucormycosis or any fungal infection, and there are two modalities. If it is yeast unicellular fungus, then you can perform very easily on Sebrodextrose agar also by implementing of caspofungin, amphotericin B or adenylfungin or fluconazole. But this is called disc diffusion and antifungal sensitivity testing. Yes. But this is very limited and you can only apply for yeasts like Candida, like meningitis due to Candida albicans or Candida non-albicans. But a vast majority number of fungus apart from Candida, then you cannot do on disc diffusion method. Then we can do with AFST, antifungal sensitivity testing by microbroth dilution method. For microbroth dilution method, suppose it is a very complex process. For amphotericin B, you have to take 8 titer, 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 32, 64, and for each titer and there are 10 antibiotics. So amphotericin B, fluconazole, miconazole, caspofungin, adenylfungin, and if it is 10, then for 8 titer, 80 tube you need. And for 80 tube, you have to inoculate the growth in all the tube, and you have to perform subculture from each tube. So you need 80 Sebrodextrose agar. So it is a bit cumbersome. We can do it. We can do for academic purpose.
Just like MIC.
You can do it, MIC. But it is a bit cumbersome. That process I have explained you. But why I have not done? This is a bigger question. Once I am seeing, because in fungal infection, especially mucormycosis, observing, seeing and diagnosis is the mainstay. Once you diagnose, by your naked eye you are seeing that it is a black fungus, black necrose, char and obliterated tissue, and by Sebrodextrose, by KOH mount, you are seeing that a broad a septate hyphae, and step by step we get diagnosis. In laboratory science we cannot diagnose at a one stage. So by KOH mount we detected that yes, it is fungal infection, confirmed. But whether it is septate or aseptate, now it is aseptate, then we will think of mucor, and that has to be confirmed by LPCB, that lactophenol cotton blue, and mucor has been detected. So it is so grave disease that you cannot waste time on choosing the antibiotic. And here also, if the tissue has been damaged, what you will do by giving antibiotic? It involves deeper infection. So first we have to debride. Debridement is the main. But yes, I agree with you, AFST should be done. And one thing I would like to communicate to the whole house, आने वाला समय फंगल इन्फेक्शन का है, अभी भी फंगल इन्फेक्शन है, पर चूंकि डायग्नोज नहीं हो पा रहा है इसलिए पता नहीं। 50% ऑफ द रिपोर्टेड केस इन ICU मोर्टेलिटी इज ड्यू टू फंगल सेप्टिसेमिया। वी आर गोइंग फॉर बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन, चलाते रहते वैनकोमाइसिन, इमिपिनेम, मेरोपिनेम, कोलिस्टीन। व्हाट इज द बेसिस फॉर दैट? एक बार फंगल, ठीक है, बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन, डॉक्टर साहब आया नहीं, नो ग्रोथ आया, देन व्हाई यू आर गोइंग फॉर ये वैनकोमाइसिन, कोलिस्टीन? Think for other prospect also, think for other etiology also. Just inoculate the sample over Sebrodextrozagar or simple KOH mount is very fruitful and very cheap test. कोई भी सैंपल आता है तो उसको पॉलीसिंड्रोमिक, पॉली डायग्नोस्टिक अप्रोच रखना है। KOH माउंट कितना महंगा है? बहुत सस्ता टेस्ट है। सैंपल लिए, KOH माउंट कर दिए, फंगल है कि नहीं है? नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं, बैक्टीरिया देखिए, मैलिग्नेंसी खोजिए। अगर फंगल है तो सेब्रोडेक्स्ट्रोजागर पे LPCV करके एटलीस्ट यू कैन फाइंड आउट डायग्नोसिस। एंड हायर सेंटर इवन इन रांची आल्सो, and we all are privileged that among us Dr. Seema ma'am, she is guru also mine, and she has been pioneered in antifungal susceptibility testing. So we can learn at higher center like RIMS also, and many people are working over that. Seema ma'am is one of them. So AFST is the key and it should be done. Good question.
Thank you, sir. For academic purpose, actually.
No, not for academic purpose. In the coming days, it is very dismal. In one of the newspaper editorials also I went through that you have just with 4 to 5 basic class of antifungals. First, you find out that whether it is sensitive to amphotericin B or not. Just like bacteria, अगर ग्राम नेगेटिव बैक्टीरिया क्लेप्सिला है उसको वैनकोमाइसिन देंगे, काम करेगा? ग्राम नेगेटिव बैक्टीरिया में वैनकोमाइसिन काम करेगा? अब 20 को एंटीबायोटिक लगा दिया अच्छा लगने के लिए, क्या रे बोलेगा बहुत बढ़िया? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। इफ फर्स्ट बाय ग्राम स्टेनिंग यू फाइंड आउट वेदर इट इज ग्राम पॉजिटिव और ग्राम नेगेटिव है तो वैनकोमाइसिन क्यों देंगे? क्यों लाइनिजोलोइड देंगे? क्यों एमॉक्सिक्लेव देंगे? ग्राम नेगेटिव है तो मेरोपेनेम देंगे। जो सेंसिटिविटी आया, जस्ट गो फॉर सेंसिटिविटी, प्रोमोट एंड इंकरेज एंड एडवर्टाइज, परसुएट करिए कि एंटीबायोटिक सेंसिटिविटी टेस्टिंग के बिना कोई, जैसे हेल्थ मिनिस्टर आए थे, इट वाज वेरी प्रोफाउंड स्पीच एंड ही इवन स्पोक फॉर एंटीबायोटिक सेंसिटिविटी टेस्टिंग, इट वाज ग्रेट टू हियर फ्रॉम हिम। तो ये अब रिजोल्यूशन आ चाहिए। WHO हैज स्टार्टेड अ वेरी एम्बिशियस एंटीबायोटिक सेंसिटिविटी, एंटीबायोटिक स्टीवार्डशिप प्रोग्राम। You should not prescribe, empirical दवा लिख दीजिए, पर you should not prescribe any higher antibiotic until and unless not antibacterial sensitivity testing. Now I will add along you antifungal sensitivity testing. जैसे मैंने कहा क्लेप्सिला में वैनकोमाइसिन का जरूरत नहीं है, और जो एंटीबायोटिक सेंसिटिविटी मेरोपिनेम आया या सेफ्ट्रियाक्जोन सल्बेक्टम आया या सेफ्ट्रियाक्जोन है वो दीजिए, स्पेसिफिक एंटीबायोटिक। अब क्या है कि हम AFST कर नहीं रहे हैं तो एंटीफंगल में एम्फोटेरिसिन भी दिए जा रहे हैं। बट यू रेज द वेरी वैलिड पॉइंट कि AFST करना चाहिए। अगर एम्फोटेरिसिन B से रेजिस्टेंट है तो फिर कैस्पोफंजिन देंगे, मीकाफंजिन देंगे। वही काम हम लोग जो बैक्टीरिया में करते थे पिछले कई दिन से अभी भी हो रहा है वो। सो आई वुड लाइक टू स्ट्रेस फोकस ऑन AFST, बट इट इज अ बिट रिसोर्स लिमिटेड सिनेरियो, बट वी शुड ट्राई टू वर्क ओवर दैट।
Thank you, sir.
वेलकम। द बेनिफिट ऑफ टेकिंग नेजल, कोई पल्मोनरी है, देन व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ टेकिंग नेजल? ठीक है, नेजल सैंपल ही लेते हैं, अदर ब्रोंकोअल्वेओलर लवाज इज द मोस्ट स्पेसिफिक। तो सैंपल कहाँ से लेते हैं, कैसे लेते हैं, किस लिए लेते हैं, दिस इज द वेरी पाइवटल, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट।
कहीं ना कहीं कमी खल जाती है, जब डॉक्टर नहीं रहते हैं तो हमें कमी खल जाती है, और शायद मैं ऐसा ही सोचता हूँ हम जब नहीं रहते हैं तो डॉक्टर्स को भी कुछ कमी खलती है। तो इसलिए हमारा और डॉक्टर्स के बीच में खासकर डायग्नोस्टिक लेबोरेटरी टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट का जो वर्क है उसमें उन दोनों के बीच में अनुनाश्रय संबंध है। अब समय है सम्मान देने का। जैसा कि हमने कहा, इस मंच पर इन्होंने अपना महत्वपूर्ण समय यहाँ पर आकर डायग्नोस्टिक ये जो साइंटिफिक सेशन में देकर इस बात को भी स्थापित करते हैं, इस बॉन्डिंग को भी और मजबूत करते हैं कि हाँ, हम दोनों पेशेंट के हित में, समाज के हित में और नए नए शोध के हित में हम दोनों एक दूसरे के पूरक हैं। इसका द्योतक है जो हमारे बीच में रिम्स, सीसीएल हॉस्पिटल गांधीनगर जैसे संस्थानों में जो काफ़ी बिजी हॉस्पिटल है जहाँ पे काफ़ी पेशेंट्स रहते हैं, उस वैसे अस्पतालों से ये हमारे डॉक्टर्स यहाँ आके टाइम दिए। मैं ये एंकरिंग के साथ साथ एक अच्छी टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट भी हैं और विधानसभा में ये पदस्थापित हैं। ताली।
एक चीज़ मैं आज बोलना चाहती हूँ, मुझे बहुत आज फॉर्चूनेट फील हो रहा है और बहुत ही लकी हूँ कि सर शुक्ला सर से आज मुझे सम्मानित किया जा रहा है। और ये सर है जो हम 3 साल इनसे ही सीख के आज यहाँ पे हैं आप लोग के सामने। क्योंकि हमने जो अपना MD किया वो BHU से किया और जाते ही और टिल जब हम 3rd ईयर वहाँ निकले तो सर ने काफ़ी गाइड किया और आज मैं जो इस लेवल पे हूँ आप लोग के सामने, आई थिंक उनका श्रेय कहीं ना कहीं सर को भी जाए। थैंक यू।
It is your greatness, madam.
कोल इंडिया का जो सेंट्रल हॉस्पिटल गांधीनगर है उसका माइक्रोबायोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट काफ़ी उसका ऊपर गया है ग्राफ। और आप लोगों ने भी अनुभव किया होगा कि हम लोग पहले जो होता था, जो जितने भी डिस्क हमारे पास है सबको लगा दिए। अब कौन डिस्क ग्राम निगेटिव में ज़रूरत है, कौन ग्राम पॉजिटिव में ज़रूरत है, उसको उतना अहमियत ना देते हुए जो भी मेडिसिन हुआ सबको लगाते जाते थे। अब सर के जाने के बाद इन्होंने इन सब जो त्रुटियां थी उसको पॉइंट आउट किया और आज मैं कह सकता हूं कि हमें गर्व है कि हम डॉक्टर जितेंद्र कुमार सर के साथ वहाँ पे कार्यरत। अब मैं डॉक्टर जितेंद्र कुमार सर को सम्मानित करने के लिए इस कार्यक्रम में बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी के रूप में हमेशा जुड़े रहे, दिन रात लगे हुए हैं और चूँकि कार्यक्रम तो अभी चलता रहेगा, उनका जज्बा इसी तरह बना रहे। कमलेश कुमार जी को मैं आमंत्रित करता हूँ, वो आए और डॉक्टर जितेंद्र कुमार सर को सम्मानित करें।
क्षमा चाहूँगा, 2 मिनट में लेना चाह रहा हूँ। मैं वहाँ पे ये नहीं बता पाया। ये मैं सौभाग्य हूँ कि गांधीनगर में मैं पदस्थापित हूँ और हमारे टीम का जो योगदान है, जो भी म्यूकर माइकोसिस हो कोई भी काम हम लोग एज ए टीम वर्क करते हैं, ठीक है। उसमें एक कैप्टन हो सकता है, एक लीडर हो सकता है, बाकी उसके समग्र साथी होते हैं। पर मेडिकल पूरा मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट हो, पर खास करके डायग्नोस्टिक जो है वो बिल्कुल टीम स्पिरिट पे काम करता है। उसमें डॉक्टर्स का भी उतना ही रोल है, टेक्नीशियंस का भी उतना ही रोल है। और जब तक एक टीम स्पिरिट नहीं आएगा, बहुत बार मैं डायग्नोसिस करते समय, केस करते समय, सर यहाँ से सैंपल लेते तो अच्छा रहता, बहुत बार सुधांशु, हमारे झा जी, तो हमारा टीम का बिल्कुल हमेशा रोल रहता है। और जरूरी नहीं कि हमेशा एज ए डॉक्टर हम लोग हमेशा सही
अपनी जो खूबियाँ हैं
and we need 2 sessions. So first of all, I would like to call
small piece of knowledge with you, as me and my team had the honor of working in a COVID hospital since last 2 years. I am just sharing a bit of knowledge with you, giving a tribute to our corona warriors. The topic of my study is a study of seroprevalence of SARS-CoV-2 IgG antibodies among healthcare workers of a COVID hospital in northern India. Novel coronavirus, known as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, as commonly known as SARS-CoV-2, was first reported in December 2019 in Wuhan, China. It grew into a full-scale pandemic within months and is now continuing across the world. Reported cases is more than 2,203 countries and more than 1.7 million deaths. Presently, as in October 2022, globally, there are over 615 million confirmed cases of coronavirus and 6.5 million deaths due to COVID. In India also, 44.5 million confirmed cases are there and nearly 5.28 lakh deaths have occurred due to COVID. Also, people of all communities and professions have the risk of getting COVID infection, yet the healthcare workers are at greater risk because of their nature of work. Therefore, it was required to have an estimate about the seroprevalence of the natural antibodies among HCWs before vaccination. Because this study was done when the vaccination was just started and we have not got vaccination. That might affect the time required to achieve immunity against the virus called herd immunity. The aim of the study was to estimate the seroprevalence of SARS-CoV-2 IgG antibodies in the healthcare workers working in a COVID hospital, to analyze the pattern by variables such as age group, gender, infection risk, and duty period, etc. It was a hospital-based cross-sectional study, and a whole team was involved. The study was conducted in a COVID hospital in which I was working. Approximately 500 ml blood was collected in SST tube from healthcare workers after having proper written consent and knowing their...
The value should be there. What is the actual value, sir? You are the best person to guide us, because you see, after taking vaccination also, my titer was 4.8 IgG. So, and one more thing I want to tell you, which is the gold standard? CLIA or ELISA? See, nowadays the chromatographic curves are very much available. And how many of us trust, you all know very well. Patient doesn't rely on that. So my question is, first of all, which one is the gold standard? And the second thing is that titer is must, what I feel, because I have experienced that one. And the second thing that what should be the value? It's a question for you, and the experienced sir also will be able to guide us. That is the thing. So please.
Hello. That was a very good presentation. First, I would like to thank you and congratulate you. Testing was so accurate, sensitive, and relevant. Then why PCR had engraved its foot? So it is good. It is one of the good paper. But that what you asked, that was going in my mind also. That from the advent of COVID-19 infection, we serve from door to door for diagnosis of COVID-19. And as we know, even before
the project. As Dr. Shrima ma'am told very correctly, like ISO quality is one of the important parameter for all the laboratories. And in that three part is like accuracy, reliability, and time management is the three key points for all the laboratory to find out the identification of the microorganism. So on our planet, how much microorganisms are there? One of the literature says that there are more than 3 million microorganisms, diverse living organisms are there. But the practical part says that almost 1 trillion groups are belonging from the bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotic, in which fungi are there. And in this large number of microorganisms that covered by the mostly symbiotic microorganisms that is present with the human as well as the plants. Besides that, there are large number of microorganisms that causing disease, and they are called as a pathogenic organism. And this is our concern of any clinician, because this is related to the human, plants, and animals. Here we are dealing with the humans. So it is very important to identify this pathogen in as early as possible, so that we can do our treatment. We can start our treatment quickly. So WHO has mentioned three category: priority, then high and medium, based on the types of the microorganisms and their drug resistance pattern. These are the criteria given by the World Health Organization as well as in India, Department of Biotechnology also recommended same list of microorganisms as a priority basis. So it is very important to identify this microorganism for the treatment as well as the policy making, because any place, if these microorganisms at the species level and clonality level, we will know that it will be easy to make a policy so that early treatment we can start. So starting from our ancient or manual methods, we are using different biochemicals methods for the gram. After doing the gram staining, we know what are the gram-positive bacteria, and then from morphology we can also say these are the cocci and these are the bacillus, and accordingly we can perform our task. But there are the demerits. It takes a long time, almost 36 hours to 48 hours it will take to identification, and along with that we have to perform parallel antibiotic susceptibility for the treatment. With the due advancement of the technology, more and more new techniques has emerged. One of the techniques that is our analytical profile index API test, in which some of the main biochemical tests are formulated in a tube basis, in which we can add our microorganism, incubate, and the reading of this API results along with the matching with the index, we can identify the bacteria. But again here we have to go parallelly antibiotic susceptibility test for the treatment purpose. Further more advancement came, and this is the most of the laboratory has this Vitek machine. This is where we can go parallelly antibiotic susceptibility as well as identification, and time also decrease. Like almost it takes 8 to 10 hours for the identification as well as the antibiotic susceptibility when we have the culture plate ready. After overnight incubation, when we know this sample has the positive bacterial or fungal infection, then we can directly go for the Vitek machine using the AST card and identity card, both for the gram negative, gram positive, or if it is fungi. So this is the more advancement now. Most of the lab has using this, but this also has demerits, like some of the microorganisms that containing very close biochemical test, like E. coli and like Shigella. They have many biochemical tests. They are very common, and also like Enterobacter and Klebsiella. They have many biochemical tests very similar to each other. So that time it is very difficult to identify the organism. Although we can get the susceptibility test, but identification is still little bit of question of marks. And for that there is a sequence-based method is there. That is our 16S rRNA sequencing. That is a PCR method. There we have the 16S rRNA.
Diseases are transmitted from one person to another person through unprotected sexual contact, either of same sex or different sex. It is a spectrum of multiple pathologies with varied etiology. Its transmission may be horizontal or vertical. Horizontal means one person to another person via sexual contact. Vertical means pregnant infected mother to its child. The causative agents may vary, like bacteria, virus, fungus, protozoa and parasites. If STD is not treated, it may lead to organ damage, infertility, certain types of cancer like in HPV, human papilloma virus, cervical cancer, and even may cause death. These diseases are easy to treat. In social scenario, it is most untalked, unexplained and untouched topic. Bacterial sexual transmitted disease are syphilis caused by Treponema pallidum, gonorrhea caused by Neisseria gonorrhoeae, lymphogranulovenerum caused by Chlamydia trachomatis, bacterial vaginosis, which is imbalance of good bacteria and bad bacteria in vaginal flora. Fungal STD like vaginal candidiasis by Candida species, viral STDs like HIV, human papilloma virus, HPV, and hepatitis B. Some parasites, like most common parasite is Trichomonas vaginalis, which causes sexually transmitted diseases. Although sexually transmitted disease is a group of disease, they have some specific, some common symptoms they share. Some of the symptoms are sore and itching on genital, rectal, and oral areas, discharge from genitals, painful urination, painful sexual intercourse, swollen lymph nodes with or without tenderness, like in LGV, bubo comes, sticky and fishy smell in bacterial vaginosis, lower abdominal pain, testicular pain, unusual vaginal bleeding and unusual periods, rashes over trunk, hands and feet, vision and hearing loss, weight loss, memory loss, like in HIV, infectious. It is very infectious even when patient is asymptomatic. These are the risk factors which contains unprotected sexual contact with sexually transmitted STD infection person, multiple sex partners, caused by chlamydia trachomatis of subtypes L1, L2 and L3. This is an uncommon sexual transmitted disease spread through oral, vaginal and anal sex. Bacteria binds to specific receptors and enters into the body via parasite-induced endocytosis. It is obligate intracellular parasite. It cannot live outside the body. It persists in two forms: elementary body, which are smaller, present in extracellular areas. These are the invaders, and these are inactives. These are in inactive form. The second one is reticular body. They are larger body. They are intracellular, and they proliferate and multiply their number. Symptoms: 70% males and 50% females are asymptomatic. Symptoms may appear within 3 weeks, characterized by painful and swollen, indurated, draining inguinal lymph nodes, which is called bubo, painless ulcer on shaft of penis in males and labia, vagina and perineum in females, white cloudy discharge from penis, epididymis, urethritis in male, abnormal milky yellowish discharge from vagina, cervivitis, urethritis, endometritis, infertility in male can happen. Proctitis and conjunctivitis are the main symptoms. Chlamydia infection among neonates due to perinatal exposure to mother infected cervix during childbirth. The baby gets infected. It involves mucous membrane of eyes, oropharynx, urogenital tract and
use the term nutraceuticals. Nutraceuticals is any substance that is a food or a part of food that is used for the prevention and the treatment of any type of disease. 8 SSAI in 2015 Food Safety and Standard Authority of India defined nutraceuticals as a natural occurring chemical compounds having physiological benefits to provide protection against the chronic diseases or their isolates or their purified from the food or non-food sources may be prepared or marketed in the form of food format as a granules, powder, tablets, capsule or that is the liquid gel or may be packed in sachet ampoule or in case or in bottles etc. to be taken measured unit quantities. Next. Recent study revealed that several nutraceuticals are beneficial or promising agents for the treatment and prevention of many diseases such as diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, obesity, cancer, Aimlta, as well as dyslipidemia. As we can understand about the nutraceuticals, the two terms, that is the nutra, that is derived from the nutrients which is required for the health, and ceuticals, that is the term from the pharmaceuticals, that means remedies for the ill effects. That means nutraceuticals are for the prevention and therapeutic as a medical approach. Next. In this research paper, we use methodology as present review focus on collecting data regarding the current knowledge in the field of nutraceuticals in the term of bioinformatics applications or the bioinformatics tools. In order to structure this review, the bibliography search was employed in different search engines, mainly Scopus, Google Scholars, and the time frame between the research paper to a study is 2015 to 2020. In 2020-22, the use of nutraceuticals in comparison to 2002 will be increased several times, about the 20 times increased. The knowledge used for the collection of the paper was nutraceuticals, and that is the natural products. The type of documented studied for this review was the review papers, original articles, books, chapters, and that will be published.
Good afternoon, everyone. So first, a small brief introduction about the dengue. We all know about the dengue. It is a viral disease, and these are the clinical symptoms of dengue fever. And etiological factor we know is a viral fever, and a vector is mosquito. It is Egypti, which that transmit the disease from one infected person to a normal person. And these are the serotypes. These 4 serotypes are more or less available in our states as well as in country for the dengue fever. And mostly in Calcutta this year we have found DEN 2 and DEN 3. So little bit DEN 3 is more serious than DEN 2. So dengue is the RNA virus, and it has 3 phases. 3 phases of clinically. The fever condition has the 3 phases: febrile, critical, and recovery phase. Mortality rate as per World Health Organization, it is 1 to 15%. If it is treated, it may be within 1 and 2%. If it is untreated or late diagnosis is done, then it may be up to 15 and may cross this 15% or more, the death rate. Laboratory diagnosis, mostly we know RDK, rapid diagnostic test kit, which we use, and ELISA more reliable than RDK test, as we all know. So main parameter what would be for the early diagnosis of dengue fever. For the early diagnosis of dengue fever, so NS1 is the prime criteria which we are following nowadays. NS1 is a prime criteria test by which we are diagnosing dengue. Yes, it is reactive or not. For the NS1 test report, we are writing or giving the report reactive or non-reactive, because some cofactors also there that may interfere with the positivity of the test. That is why for the immunoglobulin test for IgG and IgM, we are writing this result, that is positive or negative. In case of dengue NS1, we are giving the report as reactive and non-reactive. So dengue test initially, we are, as the protocol given by our Department of Health, Government of West Bengal, and as it was followed by the National Health Policy, from second day, after 24 hours to up to 5th day, we are doing dengue NS1 test, and after 5th day onwards, we are doing IgM test for the dengue fever, for the diagnosis of dengue fever. So main diagnostic parameter for the patient management, that is hemoglobin, Paxil volume, and along with the NS1 test, we are monitoring these parameters, that is hemoglobin and Paxil volume test, also the platelets every day for dengue positive patient. Target is the simple. Target is early diagnosis for better management, early diagnosis for prompt treatment. Because we must recover our patient. Diagnosis is the main criteria to find out what the disease is, and then it will be easier for the clinician to treat the patient. This is my study, place of study. This is my own clinic where I am working. This is Lalka Dengue Detection Center, Kolkata in West Bengal, and duration of this study from 1st January 2022 this year till October 31st. Kits which I used, that was given and supplied by the government, and I had to use, there was no choice. So kit that for the NS1,
nested in-house PCR protocol for detection of Mycobacterium tuberculosis in clinical samples. So what is PCR? Polymerase chain reaction is a laboratory technique for rapidly producing, that is amplifying millions and to billions copies of specific DNA sample. This technique was invented by a scientist named Gary Morris, who worked as a technician under Cetus Corporation in California, USA. Since its inception, the PCR technique has revolutionized the field of diagnosis of infectious disease. Next. So what are the basics of conventional PCR? There are three basic steps in conventional PCR. First, we isolate DNA from the sample of the patient. Second, we run the process called thermal cycling. Third, we visualize the product of PCR by gel electrophoresis. Next. So the reagents required for thermal cycling.
On my topic, which is held in RIMS, Ranchi. My topic is infertility and azoospermia. First of all, I would like to introduce about my subject, then I will come to the PowerPoint. It is an increasing medical and social problem from which 8 to 12% of couples suffer worldwide. Infertility means inability to conceive within 1 year of active marriage life without use of any contraception. 90% of females have the potency of getting one child in first 2 years, 2 children in first 5 years, and 3 children in 8 years of marriage life. The knowledge that has been gained has provided a better understanding of the science of infertility and has resulted in the development of reproductive technology that have greatly benefited infertile couples. There are many known and no doubt countless unknown factors that impact on the human reproductive system. Of the known factors, some can be altered, thereby increasing the chances of pregnancy, while others cannot. Some of the more important factors are maternal age, time of intercourse, previous contraception, occupational hazard, diet, lifestyle in which smoking, caffeine, alcohol, stress and anxiety included. Infertility affects approximately 119 million people globally, where male factor infertility is implicated in approximately 50% of the total infertile cases, which is increasing day by day, and it is very serious condition for us. 70% couple conceive within first year of marriage life, another 20 will conceive in second year of marriage naturally. Only 10% does not conceive after 2 years of active marriage. Out of this 10% of infertile couples, 6 to 7% will conceive by some help of medicines, counseling, information about infertile period, some herbal medicines. Only 3 to 10% required ART treatments. Now we will, in very short period, we will discuss about what is ART treatment. ART means assisted reproductive technology, in which intrauterine insemination, in vitro fertilization, which is generally known by the name of test tube baby, embryo transfer, oocyte donation, and surrogacy. Now, we will talk about IUI in we have very short period, so we will discuss in very short. IUI, what is IUI? Intrauterine insemination, techniques for insemination which can be performed intravaginally, intracervically, intraperitoneally or intrauterine. These techniques are being used for many years for a number of different indications, and the semen of husband or donor is used. IUI is an effective, non-invasive, relatively simple and cheap methods of treatment. IVF, we know very well by the name of test tube baby. In vitro fertilization is one of the most significant advances in the field of reproductive medicine. The first IVF baby, Louis Brown, born in England in 1978. As estimated, 1 billion babies have been born as a result of this technology. Initially, IVF was developed for the women with tubal disease, but now it is a treatment of choice. For other cases of infertility, all of the steps of IVF treatment have been reported, upon which has resulted in continuously rising success rate over the last 40 years. IVF is the most successful infertility treatment that can be offered. 4 steps of IVF is ovulation injection, in which different type of hormonal injections given to the patient to increase the number of oocytes. Oocyte retrieval means suctions of ova from ovaries. Oocytes insemination, in which sperm is injected inside the ova for formations of embryo. And the 4th one is embryo transfer. After different stages of embryo, we will transfer from day 2 embryo to day 5 embryo, which is called blastocyst, inside the uterus of the female patient. ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, is a process in which single live normal morphological sperm is injected inside the oocytes under microscopical view, using a setup of micromanipulator in order to have a fruitful fertilization and subsequent embryo development. Now we will discuss about azoospermia. As we know very well, azoospermia is a condition in which there is no sperm inside the semen sample. It is very horrible conditions for male to accept it. By power presentation, we will discuss and talk about different techniques, technology which is used for azoospermic patients, and how can we will few lines about azoospermia. There have been many years of
वीडियो को रन करने के पीछे का मोटिव है कि आज के टाइम पे डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी कैसे बहुत सारे लोगों का वर्कलोड फ्री कर रही है, और जिसके कारण आप लोगों को टाइम मिल रहा है आपके फ्यूचर एक्सपेंशन को प्लान करने का। एक स्मार्ट DMS acts like a smart digital system administrator that does the work of a smart employee. मीन्स अगर एक स्मार्ट DMS है आपके पास, मीन्स वो आपके लिए एक स्मार्ट एम्प्लॉय की तरह पूरा वर्क कर रहा है। It smartly manages all the department of your center as well as provide the reports or other necessary information anywhere and anytime instant. अगर आप कहीं पे भी हैं तो अगर आपके पास स्मार्ट डिजिटलाइज सिस्टम है तो आपको इजीली सारा इंफॉर्मेशन एक्सेस हो पाता है। The government of India is rapidly digitalizing the healthcare sector to fulfill its dream of Digital India movement. For digitalization, it is necessary to follow the guideline of every norms like NABL and etc. Keeping in mind, not just only single center but also multi-chain diagnostic center, we are providing very cost-effective and system-friendly smart DMS to all, which follows all the guidelines of every norms.
Mrs. Manjula Gupta.
नहीं सही नहीं पढ़ रहा।
Thank you to pass.
किसी को भी अगर
वो भी बहुत
हाँ नहीं ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, कर लूँगा। हाँ हाँ बाहर चलकर पहुँचता ही नहीं पड़ रहा, बाहर जाना सबसे बड़ा यहाँ रांची रहता है।
अखिलेश सर के लिए आई, अखिलेश सर को बुके एंड मोमेंटो।
अरे एक दिन कैसी बात है भाई, पटना जाना दो, हाँ तो 2 दिन का, तुम 2 दिन के बाद तो 2 दिन में यहाँ उससे ज़्यादा कमा लेगा।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
अरे हम मेहनत कर लेंगे, लड़का को जिसको भी ले जाएंगे वो करो मैनेज।
Abnormalities in patient infected with COVID-19. The aim of our study was to estimate liver function test in patient infected with COVID-19 admitted in Government Medical College Aurangabad from 1st March to 15 March 2021 to evaluate if liver function test abnormalities are related to the other comorbidities in COVID-19 infected patients. Next. Trial and methods. Data of 60 COVID-19 positive patients admitted in JMC Aurangabad was obtained after evaluation in the biochemistry laboratory on Excel 640 analyzer. Among the 60 patients, 42 were males while 18 were females. The liver function test including alanine aminotransferase, aspartate aminotransferase and total bilirubin values was recorded. Inclusion criteria: symptomatic COVID-19 positive, age group 35 to 60 years. Exclusion criteria: asymptomatic patients and below 35 and above 60 years. Results. Next. Among the 60 patients, 34 patients had a liver dysfunction, while 26 patients had a normal liver function. The number of male patients with liver dysfunction were more than the female patients. The p-values of less than 0.05 and next. Table number 2. 32 patients with hepatic dysfunction presented on one or more comorbidities like hypertension and diabetes mellitus. The p-values of less than 0.01. Discussion. In our study, patients with liver dysfunction were older and had comorbid conditions like hypertension and diabetes. Causes of liver injury related to the SARS-CoV-2 is unclear. It could be drugs induced. The males were affected more than the females. Several studies have shown that in male presence of comorbidities were associated with the poor prognosis in COVID-19 patients. Mild liver dysfunction in COVID-19 is often temporary and returns to the normal without special treatments. Next. Conclusion. Our study found that liver dysfunction was severe in COVID-19 cases in older males with comorbid conditions like hypertension and diabetes. Hepatic injury is frequent in patients with COVID-2 infection, which may be due to viral infection of bile duct cells or cytokine storms. Liver function should be evaluated in all symptomatic COVID-19 patients, in patients with pre-existing liver disease and other comorbidities. Special attention should be paid to monitoring and treatment. Next. These are my references. Next.
Yes. Good afternoon, all of you. Myself is Omkar Umate, BSc PMT intern, Government Medical College, from renal function in a patient diagnosed with the COVID-19, admitted in a Government Medical College, Aurangabad, with comorbidities as compared to the cases without comorbidities. Next slide. In this retrospective study, we include 30 confirmed cases of COVID-19 patients with comorbidities as test and 30 confirmed cases of COVID-19 without comorbidities. Control admitted in a Government Medical College, Aurangabad from 1st to 15 March 2021. Blood urea and serum creatinine laboratory findings were estimated to access the renal function autoanalyzer XL640 and data we are collected. Inclusion criteria are COVID-19 confirmed cases, RT-PCR, age is a 35 to 16 years. Exclusion criteria are a COVID-19 negative below 35 and about 60 years. A total of 60 hospitalized patients were diagnosed with the COVID-19, include 30 cases without comorbidities and 30 cases with comorbidities, diabetes and hypertension. Serum creatinine